What's going on, legends? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'm bringing you guys the mission guide for tier 4 of the White Lotus faction. This one is of course unlocked once you've completed the final mission in tier 3, and this one does consist of 7 total missions. Out of the first 6, you will have to complete 5 of them in order to unlock the final one, and once you complete the final one, you will unlock tier 5. Now, before we dive into it, if you guys do enjoy this content anytime or find this video helpful in any way, make sure you show your support for the channel by going down below and smashing that like button. Going to throw an easy goal of 50 likes on today's video, as well as if you guys like to find your way back to the channel for more Call of Duty content, make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button alongside that notification bell so we don't miss you in future videos. First up, we have Cover No Concealment. This guy's going to be a 2-parter, and it's not going to be too challenging. Part 1 is asking you to snapshot 8 enemies and lock strongholds using a snapshot grenade. So, of course, you're going to need to have equipped a snapshot or find one during your run, and you're just not going to want to unlock the door. You're going to throw these on the outside walls. It should snapshot the enemies through the walls, making part 1 pretty straightforward. Now, part 2 is a little bit more challenging, but it's still along the lines of part 1. You need to kill 20 enemies in locked strongholds. Again, you're not going to be opening the door at all. You're probably wondering, how do I eliminate these enemies? If the door is locked, the best way to go about this is to throw on the drill charge. And the same way you're going to rack up your snapshots with the munition boxes or however you decide to do so, you do that same thing for the drill charges, and you'll be able to eliminate quite a few enemies per stronghold that you actually go to. Snapshot the outsides of the wall, drill charge the areas where you see those enemies, and you should eliminate them through the walls, eventually killing all 20 and completing this mission. Next up, we have Omnivore. This is going to be a 3-parter. Part 1's asking you to kill 35 armored enemies in Sawa Village. Good news is you're just going to go over to the Sawa Village area, and there's a ton of enemies in this area that are armored in general. You're probably going to see more armored than not, so just spend enough time in this area eliminating enemies. If you obviously break armor or armor shows up when you shoot them, it's going to be the armored enemies that you need. Once you've completed killing 35 of them, this part will be finished. Part 2 is going to be a little bit more time consuming, as you won't be able to find a ton of these enemies. It's going to ask you to kill 15 enemies wielding riot shields in Almazra City. Now, there aren't a ton of places where you run into riot shielders, but I can for sure tell you that they're almost always in the strongholds. Actually, they are always in the strongholds. There's usually 2 of them. So alongside doing your first mission for this, Cover No Concealment, you'll actually be able to eliminate riot shielders through the walls in those strongholds, as long as you have this one equipped as well. So same thing, you're going to want to throw on your snapshot grenades, you're going to want to throw on your drill charges, you're going to want to rack up some of those so you have a good amount stowed. Then you're going to want to go to any of the strongholds in Almazra City, basically snap the outside, throw the drill charges at those riot shielders, eliminating at least 2 of them per stronghold. This will take you a little while, of course. I recommend, if you guys do have access to the embassy key, you might have pretty good luck there, as I know there are quite a few riot shielders, but it can be extremely aggressive in that area with all of the armored enemies, so that might not be the best plan of action. Honestly, if you can hit like 2 or 3 strongholds per run, you'll probably get this done in a few runs. So I definitely recommend just hitting the strongholds, using that, snapshot / drill charge technique, and you guys will eliminate these riot shielders pretty straightforward and easy. Part 3 is going to ask you to kill 4 enemy helicopters. I have some bad news with this one. It's either extremely bugged or it's just worded totally incorrect. Never gotten a single one of these to count. I know you guys are probably like, well, I came to this as a guide. The only thing that I know for sure works, I was unable to replicate. Essentially, I believe that this challenge is just worded incorrectly, and you will actually have to kill 4 enemy operator helicopters. The only thing that makes me believe this is one of my friends reported that he was able to get his own SAM turret to destroy their helicopter as they kind of jumped out of it, and it counted as one of these eliminations. They weren't able to replicate it again either, but I think overall this one is just extremely bugged, and once it gets fixed, I'll probably cover this in its own video. Next up, we have Hero Run. This is going to be a one and done. It's asking you to complete 3 rescue hostage contracts, each in under 2 minutes. If you guys don't remember which one this is, it's going to be the contract phone with the little handcuffs on it. You're going to need to complete 3 of these total, each in under that 2 minutes time. This is actually a lot more difficult than it sounds, and there's a little bit of RNG factored in just based on how far away the exfil is from that actual hostage. Now, the best strategy for this, honestly, is to find a vehicle that has an open back, whether it's a flatbed truck or just anything that another player could jump into or onto. And what you're essentially going to want to do is pull up next to the building or area in which you are getting the hostage or collecting the hostage. That way, the person with the hostage is able to kind of hop onto the vehicle, and you can use the vehicle to transport that hostage significantly quicker. Now, you're going to want to have put the hostage in the back of the helicopter and drop them with at least 15 seconds left over. Otherwise, it's not going to take off and leave fast enough, and it will not count towards your progress. You have to do this 3 different times. You're going to have a couple of different runs where maybe you get the hostage and it's just entirely too far away, or it's just unrealistic to get to, and you're just going to come across these from time to time. Not all of them are going to be easy. Not all of them are going to be doable. You just have to complete 3 of these in under 2 minutes. Next up, we have Grenade Supplier. This one is going to be 3 parts. Part 1 is asking you to deliver 7 proximity mines or claymores to the dumpster dead drop in between Al Safwa Quarry and Rohan Oil. Of course, I will show you guys on the map where this is. Essentially, the best way to go about doing any of these types of challenges is to rack up some munitions boxes. You guys think about it, if you spawn in with a proximity mine or a claymore, you're going to have at least one of them in your inventory. You would need just 3 munitions boxes to get you to that total of 7. And you don't actually have to do this in a single run, but it's obviously a lot easier to knock it out. For part 2, we're going to have to deliver 5 thermite grenades to the dumpster dead drop in Al Mazrah City in a single deployment. Again, this one isn't too crazy. You're only going to need 5 thermites. If you choose to spawn in with one, that automatically gets you 1. Then if you come across 2 munitions boxes, which one you will have automatically, and if you're with somebody else, they'll have one too. You can rack up 5 thermites pretty quickly. You're going to take it to that dead drop in Al Mazrah City, which of course I will show you guys. Once you guys drop these in there, as long as they're taken, this part will be complete. And for the last part, we have extract 13 frag grenades in 1 deployment. Now this one is a little challenging. You're going to want a medium backpack at the very least, probably a large one. You're going to be filling your backpack with mostly munitions boxes. If you want to choose to do the munitions box route, you are more than welcome to try to just loot for 13 frag grenades, but I don't think that's the fastest way to do this. Obviously, getting yourself some munitions boxes is the best way, and it also helps out teammates because you're going to be filling a majority of your bag with these frag grenades in order to get out with them. And it's going to be kind of hard to carry any plates or anything of that nature, so it kind of helps having somebody else who can carry some other items for you. Next up, we have Heavy Gunner. This is going to be a 2-parter. Part 1's asking you to kill 25 enemies with an HCR 56 at Al Sharim Pass. This is one of those areas that you are going to run across quite a few players, or enemies, I should say, and this will overall go pretty quickly. There are 2 options for actually getting an HCR. I find them to be pretty common in the buy stations as contraband weapons, but the other option, of course, is to kind of build your own as an insured weapon and come in with it that way. If you happen to just die with your insured weapon and you're waiting for the cooldown, just go and hit up a buy station. You should be able to find an HCR that way. Of course, once you've killed the 25 enemies in Al Sharim Pass, this part will be complete. Now, part 2 is asking you to kill 10 armored enemies with an HCR 56. Now, when you're doing part 1, I think it's almost nearly impossible that you won't run across a majority of these armored enemies that you need during that time period. I was even unfortunate in the sense that the Juggernaut tried to challenge me. I was able to eliminate the Juggernaut as well, and it actually counted as one of the armored guys. But pretty much I did both of these at the same time and was able to complete it pretty quick. Next up, we have Supply Drop. This one is going to be 3 parts as well. Part 1 is asking you to deliver 30 tubes of toothpaste to the dumpster dead drop at the Mawaza Marsh gas station. So essentially, the 30 tubes of toothpaste will go pretty quickly. You can hold 10 in a single stack, and you're going to find a majority of these in the medicine cabinets or just scattered throughout inside of houses, whether it's on the shelves or things of that nature. They're going to be really common. I found a ton of toothpaste tubes in a single match. I think at most I dropped 17 at once. So that one moved pretty quickly, and they're also really common, so you guys shouldn't have any issues with that. Part 2 is going to have you deliver 18 bottles of purified water to the dead drop in Al Mazrah City. Purified water is also pretty common. Finding 18 won't take you too long. These are really commonly found in fridges or in any house that has a kitchen. You're going to find them on the shelves and even on the countertops. They're going to be common enough through the fridges, though. You'll probably find a majority of them just looking through those. And then you're going to take them to the dead drop in Al Mazrah City. Once you drop them off, you pretty much move through this. Just try to get as many as you can. Some runs you might get 5, other runs you might get 10. And the last part's asking you to deliver 25 canned foods to the dumpster dead drop in Al Mazrah City. So similar to the purified water, you're going to find quite a bit of these in kitchens, on counters, sometimes on shelves. I didn't find that to be very common, but 100% I found a majority of the ones I was looking for in the fridges. Now, if you guys are uncertain with where you can find fridges for both part 2 and 3, definitely recommend any of the Yum Yum burgers in Al Mazrah City. These have quite a few fridges in them. You're going to find quite a bit of purified water and canned foods through those. And at least if you're in Al Mazrah City, you can go to the dead drop pretty quickly and pretty easy without traveling too far. Obviously, if you're on the other side of the map, it's not as easy. Seraph Bay has a pretty good kitchen with a ton of fridges in it. Overall, you're just going to want to pretty much loot any houses that you come across and open all of the fridges. Eventually, you'll rack up quite a few of these, and you can go and drop them in the dead drop. Next up, we have our last and final mission, which is going to be Caved In. This is a 3-parter, and unfortunately, I do have some terrible news. The last part of this mission is bugged. I'm going to let you know ahead of time. However, I do have exactly what you're going to be doing once it is fixed. Part 1 is asking you to enter the Riverside Caves and Satik Caves by boat. Essentially, you're just going to have to grab a boat. You're going to travel through the river. I'm going to, of course, show you on the map where this cave is. Once you get there, you're going to travel into the cave by boat, and part 1 is going to be completed. Part 2 is going to ask you to loot and extract the smuggling records in the Riverside Caves and Satik Caves. So if you guys go to where I am, or where I show you guys will find those records on the ground. You're going to want to pick those up, and you're, of course, going to need to extract with them in order for this part to be completed. Part 3 is where the bug kind of takes place. It's asking you to place sensitive documents at the original location of the smuggling records in the same deployment. So you're going to need to find the sensitive records or documents before you actually go to the location, or at least that's my recommendation, because there is some RNG factored into the sensitive documents. The best way I found about going for these was to just open safes. Opening a few safes should almost guarantee you some sensitive documents. And then you can actually go to the location where the records are. You'll be able to actually place these as you're grabbing the records themselves. So the only real issue you come across here is that where you're supposed to interact with the ground to place the sensitive documents in order for this to count, it doesn't have a spot to interact. You cannot place the documents down, and dropping it just doesn't work. So as of this moment, when I'm making this video, this is currently bugged. So it's going to keep you from going on to tier 5, unfortunately, but I do expect them to get this fixed in the somewhat near future. But at least if you're coming across this video, you know exactly what you should be doing. And hopefully once they fix that, it will be no longer an issue. So that's going to be all the missions for tier 4 of White Lotus. That's going to wrap things up for us here. Thank you guys for all the support in today's video, all the support in the channel, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next one. Peace.